Hey guys, we're gonna do this week's episode on live again. Um, I'm gonna try to add Jacob to this once again. Um, so this week we're gonna be going over and rating each of the teams off. So there we go. All right. Okay. Perfect. All right. So
Oh, great. Love it.
first, just be careful while you're driving, Jacob. Just want to say that first and foremost. This week we're going to be talking about the Sam Darnold trade, just a little bit into that, and then we will be rating each of the NFL teams' offseason moves to this point. We'll give them a rating between an A+ to an F. You ready, big guy?
I am.
All right. So first of all, shocking news in the sports world hit us a few days ago as the Panthers traded for Sam Darnold. They traded a 2022 second-round pick, I think a 2021 sixth-round pick, and then one or two more draft picks. I didn't even know Sam Darnold was up for grabs. But looking at this trade, I decided to look more at the stats and look more into depth about, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold only played in 10 games last season, 12 games last season. He went 2-10. He threw for 2,000 something yards, 9 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Teddy played in 15 games. He went 4-11, and he had 3,000 yards and like a 15-11 touchdown interception ratio. Of the two quarterbacks, Teddy Bridgewater is obviously the better quarterback, but they're both not good quarterbacks to be leading your franchise around. I just don't understand why the Panthers felt the need to make that trade in the first place. Like, they went out of their way to get Sam Darnold, which, I didn't see that coming. I don't know why they did it, and I don't know what was going on through their mind at that point. Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it's a very low risk trade. I think they only gave up some fifth and sixth rounders, so I think it was a very low risk trade for the Panthers. They're just hoping that they're getting the Sam Darnold that was picked number 2 overall in the draft by the Jets. But ultimately, if you're a Panthers fan, you can't be too optimistic about your quarterback room. Neither of those players are very good. I don't think either of those guys are franchise type quarterbacks at this point.
Right.
In their career, something drastic happens in the next year or so.
Right. Okay, so moving on to giving each of the NFL teams a rating based on their offseason moves to this point. We'll start in the NFC North. We'll go Green Bay to start. Green Bay hasn't really made any offseason moves that I've seen or been aware of. They've kind of just been stagnant. So because of that, I'm just going to give them a solid C. They haven't done anything big. They haven't done anything bad. They've just sat there. So I think that deserves a C.
Yeah, so I would say we're going to use a C as a basis point if we don't really can't really think about any major acquisitions or moves people have made. We're just going to give them a C as a basis, and so
Right.
I'll give Packers a C as well. Nothing's really been that of note by them.
Okay. And then moving on to the Bears, they traded away Mitch Trubisky. They brought in Andy Dalton, and they made Andy Dalton the starting quarterback. I haven't really seen a lot of big moves other than that, and based on those moves alone, I would give the Bears a solid D.
Yeah, I'd give the Bears less than a C just because they're, I think, have had a negative impact on the makeup of their team as opposed to how they were last year. So I think they've gotten worse this offseason, which would lead me to rate them a D as well.
All right. And then the Vikings, they brought in Patrick Peterson. They brought in Xavier Woods. They're kind of building on the secondary. They haven't really made any big moves other than those two. Those two players alone, I would give them a solid B for the moves that they've made this offseason to start building on that secondary, but not really doing anything on the offense.
I would probably give them a C minus. I would say.
Okay.
I don't. Sorry, excuse me, C plus because they made some moves, but nothing truly of note.
Okay. And then, so we got the Bears, Vikings, Packers. We got the Lions now. They lost Kenny Golladay, and they brought in Jared Goff and released Matthew Stafford. I would give the Lions a solid D- for throwing away their entire franchise for a jar of cookies.
See, this is where I disagree with you strongly. I'm going to give the Detroit Lions an A minus offseason. And the reason I'm doing that is because although the moves they made are not going to help them next year, so I would say they're going to be worse off in the next couple of years. They now have tons of draft picks to work with for the future, and so if I had to say, what their grade would be for this year, for this upcoming season, it would be low. So probably, like you said, a D. But in terms of long term, I have to give them an A minus for this offseason. I think that's ultimately what I'm going to focus on is the long term outlook, and I think it's a lot better after that Matt Stafford trade.
Okay, that's valid. So moving on to the NFC East, we'll start with the Cowboys naturally. Re-signed Dak to a huge contract. They just brought in a new tight end today from the Redskins. Wasn't really a big tight end. And there's something I'm missing that the Cowboys did this offseason that it's slipping my mind. What have they done besides the Dak contract?
Didn't they sign some offensive linemen, maybe?
Yeah, they restructured some contracts for the and then they re-signed Jordan Lewis, which was what I was going to go. So, based on the re-signing of Dak Prescott, the re-signing of Jordan Lewis, I would give the Cowboys a B plus. I think it was incredible to re-sign Dak Prescott. They paid a little highly for him, but in the end, we got our man. Jordan Lewis, he's not really anything big. I don't know why the Cowboys re-signed him rather than just starting over on the secondary and building from the draft, or looking for a solid free agent in the offseason. So that wasn't a really good move on their part. But because of the huge Dak deal, I'm going to give them a higher rating than I would if it was just the Jordan Lewis signing. So I would say a solid B plus for Dallas.
B minus.
Okay. And then we have the Eagles. They traded Carson Wentz away. They made Jalen Hurts their starting quarterback. They lost Deshaun Jackson. So, it was wise on their part to give up Carson Wentz and make Jalen Hurts the starting quarterback. We haven't seen a ton of him. He wasn't really successful in the games that he did play, but he's still young and he still has a lot to learn. So I'm going to give the Eagles a C plus for their moves in the offseason.
I agree. I think they made the right move to move on from Carson Wentz. So I'll give them a C plus as well.
And then we have the Giants, who they signed Kenny Golladay. They signed Kyle Rudolph, I'm pretty sure it was, from the Vikings. And yeah. So they got a couple weapons from Daniel Jones, and they're making moves to help stack their offense. Those two targets, along with Saquon Barkley, is going to be a pretty threatening offense. And for that, I'm going to give the Giants a B plus for their moves.
I'm going to give them a C plus as well. I don't think any of those signings make them significantly better, and I think they overpaid for Kenny Golladay by a large margin.
Okay. And then moving on to Washington, I haven't seen anything big coming from them this offseason, so I'm just going to give them the solid C.
Same here. I'll give them a C
Okay.
as well.
And going on to the NFC South, we'll start with the Saints. They lost Drew Brees, which was a really big hit to their team. They haven't done anything other than that. Losing Drew Brees and not doing anything to replace it or help build the team is going to get you a really bad score in my book. So I'm going to give the Saints a D for their moves in this offseason.
Yeah, they're going to get a D for me as well.
And Tampa Bay, they re-signed all their starters, all 22 starters. I'm going to give them an A. They just won a Super Bowl. They brought back the entire roster of the Super Bowl team, so that deserves an A. Okay.
Tampa Bay is going to get. They re-signed all their starters. They're ready to make another Super Bowl run.
Yep. So Saints, we have the Buccaneers, Falcons. No big moves for the Falcons that I've seen, so they'll get a C.
You're breaking up, Jimmy. What'd you just say?
So the Falcons, we're on the Falcons now, and I said that I haven't really seen any big moves for the Falcons this offseason. So just to see.
Yeah, saying I'll give it a C as well.
Okay. So Falcons, Saints, Bucks. Who's the team I'm forgetting in that division? Saints, Falcons, Buccaneers. Who the heck is the fourth team in that division? Why is this slipping my mind? NFC South. Holy cow. Do you know the fourth team in the NFC South?
No.
Oh, it's always gonna. This happens at the worst times. I know that division. Oh, Saints, Falcons, Bucks, and let me ask Siri really quick. I feel so.
I stick with just doing NFC prediction or NFC draft grades this week, and then do AFC next week.
Okay. NFC South.
Well, Jimmy's looking it up.
NFC
Also,
the NFL from last season.
Panthers. Okay. So the Panthers, we've seen that they just traded for Sam Darnold. Not a good move in my book, but it's also not a terrible move. That's all that I've seen from the Panthers in this offseason. So based on that, I'll give them a C+.
yeah, I'll give him a C+ as well. It's just a low risk move with Sam Darnold, but nothing really else of note they've done.
Okay. And then we have the NFC West. So we'll start with the Rams trading for Matthew Stafford.
Jimmy, you're breaking up.
That was it. Okay, sorry. So I said we're moving on to the NFC West. We're going to start with the Rams. The Rams traded Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford. There were some draft picks in that trade as well. I think that was a really good move on the Rams' part. So I'll give them a B- for their moves in the offseason.
Yeah, I'll actually give them a B because that's a good win now move they made to get Matt Stafford, although it did cost him quite a bit of draft picks.
Right. Okay. And then no, let's go with the Niners because they made that crazy trade for the third overall draft pick. They traded a bunch of draft picks. They're looking to, it looks like, acquire Justin Fields with the third pick overall. And I just saw an update that the Niners are sending Shanahan and whoever is the GM of the Niners, they're going to be over there scouting Justin Fields today. So it's looking more likely that that's who they're going to be drafting. Based on that, I will give the Niners a B+ for their moves in the offseason.
I'm just going to give them an unfinished grade. It's just going to be dependent on the draft, and frankly, that's going to be a lot of teams that are upcoming. It's just going to be dependent on the draft. So I'm going to say undecided because they may be creating a quarterback logjam, which wouldn't be good either because they still have Garoppolo.
Yeah. Okay. The Cardinals have made some pretty big moves in the offseason. They did lose Patrick Peterson, but they brought in J.J. Watt. They brought in A.J. Green and, A.J. Green alongside DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald, Kyler Murray. That's going to be pretty solid. So I'm going to give the Cardinals an A- for their moves in the offseason.
I'm going to give them an A. I think they did really well in improving their team, and I think they have a legitimate shot of winning the NFC West.
Okay, and last but not least, in the NFC West, we have the Seahawks. I don't recall any big moves for them this offseason, besides all the drama with, are they going to trade Russ or are they not? And then, them both parties denying that he's going to be traded. So I'm just going to leave the Seahawks with the C because of the no moves being made.
Yeah, I'm actually giving them a C-. A lot of uncertainty with that team, and sometimes no moves at all is, being idle is really not good. So I'm going to give them a C-.
That's true. It's never a good idea to just stay stagnant, especially in a professional sports league when you need to constantly be building your team and working for that next championship. So I see why you made that decision. So we're done with the NFC. I think you said you wanted to just stop at the NFC today and then go with the AFC next week.
Yeah, because I actually wanted to talk a little bit about Deshaun Watson. I just saw
Right.
Nike pulled back all sponsorships. So it just leaves me wondering what's going to be next for him, and we'll continue to update you as things develop. But it'll be quite interesting to see what happens with Deshaun Watson. I would imagine a suspension of some kind is going to be coming from the NFL as well. But ultimately, there needs to be a trial, and these accusations need to come up and be tested in a court of law. But it'll be quite interesting to see what happens. What really was already a tough offseason for Deshaun Watson just gets tougher, and this is all on his own accord. And there's rumors flying around that he asked. I guess all 22 of these females that came forward were former masseuses for him, and he was asking them to massage him in inappropriate places. And so that's sort of all we have to go off of so far. Given that, Jimmy, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah.
What do you be the outcome of this?
Yeah. So, it's crazy. This whole Deshaun Watson situation, it just gets trickier and trickier each, day that passes. Two of the female victims actually came forward and revealed themselves as his accusers. So two of the 22. And then I think there was more victims that came about yesterday, a couple days ago, and the Houston Police Department is actually getting involved now. So this is becoming a lot more like legitimate. This is becoming a reality. Like this is going to definitely be going to trial. The police are going to run their investigation. They're going to, come back with their findings and say what, their decision is. And then it's going to go up to the court of law, and it'll be handed by, the American justice system. So, hopefully justice is served in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, is there anything else that you have to add, Jimmy?
Not really, it was just going to be the rating the teams today, because, there hasn't really been any crazy moves this past week besides the Sam Darnold trade, and we already went over that. So, if you just want to call it a day here, I'm fine with that, and then we could pick up next week on giving the AFC teams a rating.
Yeah, so next week we'll plan on getting the AFC. The reason that I think we should split it up is just because with the off season, it's been pretty slow so far. We want to make sure we have things to talk about each week, so don't want to cover too much of off-season grades. Along with the fact that I think so much of these grades are yet to be decided, and they can vastly improve after the draft. And so I think although we've given preliminary grades, I think those grades can improve or get worse based upon the performance of these teams on draft day.
Absolutely.
Because obviously is a very good indicator of a team's future and present success.
Absolutely. All right, Jake. Thanks for calling in. Be safe getting home.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you guys again next week. And again, we've mentioned this on previous episodes, but if anyone has any topics they'd like to see us talk about, any questions for us, feel free to slide into the DMs and slide messages and reach out to us. Again, thank you so much, guys, for joining us and supporting our show. We look forward to continuing to grow and expand and get better each and every week.
Yep. Thank you all. Have a great day, everybody.